go ahead and start making the base to our folio. First, you're going to need 2 sheets of cardstock that are 8.5 by 11. And you're going to put it on your scoreboard on the 11-inch side, and you're going to score at 8.5 and 9.5. And you're going to set that one aside. You're going to take your next 8.5 by 11 sheet, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to score at 8.5 and 9.5. Then you're going to need 1 sheet of paper cut to 8.5 by 8.5. All right, and then you're going to set that one aside. And then for our Z-fold page, you're going to need a sheet of cardstock that is 7 inches by 8.5. You're going to need 3 of those, okay? And you're going to score them all on the same side. Here, let me flip this over because I already have the score and I just want to continue to score on the same side. So on the 7-inch side, you're going to score at 6.5. And then we're going to set all 3 of those aside, okay? Then we're going to create a large pocket that's going to go inside the cover of the folio. This one is going to be 9 1/4 by 4.5. And then on the 4.5-inch side that we have at now, you're going to score at 4 inches. Or if you turn it the other way, it would just be a 1/2 inch, okay? Then you're going to go ahead and rotate it to the 9 1/4-inch side. You're going to score at a 1/2 inch, and then you're going to score at 8 3/4. And then we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of trimming here right quick. We're just going to go ahead and cut off the little squares. Be sure to stay on the outside of your score line, okay? Because they're not going to see this anyway, so we're pretty good there, okay? And you're just going to trim those little squares off, just like that. All right? Now let's go ahead and start putting our base together. So I'm going to put these aside as well as my Z-fold pages, and I'm going to come back to my first sheet. Let me get my mat out. My first sheet, that is 8.5 by 11. And I'm going to go ahead and fold on the score lines, okay? This way I can see them better. And I'm just going to burnish that in. All right. And then what I'm going to do is you can use whatever adhesive you want. All right. I'm just going to put this up on my scoreboard. You know, I'm just trying to put my adhesive here. And then I'm going to, well, actually, on this side, okay? I lied. You're going to put the adhesive on this side. So I'm going to flip this over. Yes, I'm going to flip this over. And I'm just going to get, this way I can see that it's aligned straight. Okay, and we know that this is 8.5 by 8.5, so we're good to go on that. And I'm also lining up here just to make sure. Now, whatever adhesive you're using is fine. I'm actually going to use glue. Okay, I did end up using just 1 strip of tape right here on the edge just because I want to make sure that the edge stays down. But I really prefer glue mostly because, well, tape is expensive. Not saying that this glue isn't, but also because I live in Florida, we have that humidity factor. So this is going to help out with that. Just going to kind of run my edge of my paper along here just to spread out my glue a little bit, and then I'm going to align it together. Okay. Just make sure you don't cover over your score line, which I'm double checking right now. Yes, I did not. Thank goodness. And I'm going to burnish that in and now smooth it out. Any excess glue, I'm going to wipe that away. I'm going to do the same thing on the inside as well. Oops. Okay, so now at this point I can go ahead and attach the other piece, but again, first I want to go ahead and fold those score lines. It's just easier for me to see the lines since this is a light colored paper, and that's why I do that. So now I'm going to do the same exact thing here. I do see that this is lifting up a little bit under here, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more glue, where I apparently missed the glue. Okay. And again, I'm going to go ahead and, for me, add my tape at the edge. And I can go ahead and add my glue on here. Okay, I'm going to move this out a little bit. And then again, I'm going to line it up. And again, make sure it's aligned. See, like I almost missed it. Okay, and then I'm just going to burnish that in. And again, wipe off any excess glue. And I'm literally pushing the glue over to the edge here. All right, good. So now that looks good. So, sorry, I got another. I probably should have put the tape on both edges because I see a little more. That's okay. We'll take care of that. And then again, burnish it in. Okay, so at this point, we now have it looking like this. So now this is our cover, and on the inside cover, we're going to go ahead and add that little pocket. So I'm going to grab my little pocket page, and I'm going to go ahead and add my tape here. And I do always go a little bit over the edge, and you're going to see what I'm going to do with that in just a second. I just push it over once I peel it off. Or you can trim it either way, which this one is a smidge long, so I think I might do that for this one, as well as this one. Okay, now I can go ahead and fold on the score lines. And you can't do this with all paper lines. This is linen cardstock. So you can't bend it like back and forth or it's going to ruin the integrity of the paper. And I'm going to get my glue. Okay, and then I have this slightly shorter than the actual page. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to center it the best that I can, and I'm going to stay about 1/8 of an inch off the bottom. Okay, just about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. I don't know if y'all can see that. And I'm going to burnish it in. And I realize that I want to add my pattern paper there first, so I am going to set this aside real quick. And I will just add glue again later. So I'm going to let that glue that's on there, that minimal amount, dry up. And then we're going to create our Zfold, okay? So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have your back page first, okay? So you're going to take it and fold it on the mountain high, right? So then when you attach it to your page, it's going to look something like this, right? And then you're going to want to have your other pages. So we're going to go ahead and, again, all of these you're going to fold on the mountain high. That doesn't change. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside. Oops. And I'm going to put that aside. Okay. So now I know when I open my book, I want it to be in, you know, I want it to open like this, right? So it's going to need to be something like this. So you're going to have this down. Okay. And then this will be like this. Hope that makes sense. So it's going to be on the left, the right, and then the left. All right, so let's start off with these two first. So we're going to go ahead and adhere this together. Then just make sure you stay on the outside of your score line, okay? But get it as close together as possible. I'm going to wipe off any excess glue and burnish it in. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead, so it's going to look something like this. We're going to flip this over. I'm going to add a little more glue in there. That's why it's always good to have tape too, because whatever you miss, the tape is going to be there for you. But for me, it doesn't really matter. Tape just does not work no matter what brand you have in Florida. So then it's going to go like this. Okay. Let me make sure I got that right. We got this. Yep. Just like that. So I'll go ahead and use the tape just to prevent any more issues arising. Burnish that in. Put that back on. So I'm going to move it a little closer to me so I can see what I'm doing here. Then I'm just going to flip that back on there. And then now I can go ahead and add my glue. Going to line it up here again. Now I can go ahead and burnish that in. And wipe away any excess glue. I'm going to do that on both sides to make sure I don't have glue seeping out underneath, and I did. So that's always best to double check. All right, now we have our Zfold ready, guys. So now it looks something like this. So it opens from here, and then this is where you're going to put the hinge down inside the album. Let's go ahead and attach our tape at this point. And if you're going to use, what you want to say, magnets, you're going to want to go ahead and use those now. So I'm going to grab my magnets real quick, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm just going to attach my first magnet, and I'm just going to put it on the front top page, right? And I'm just going to put it directly in the center. No big deal with this. Okay, and then I always like to use washi tape to hold it in place while the glue is drying. That's all. And I just leave the washi tape on there. I'm covering it up anyway with paper. So yeah, it's just no biggie. Okay. And then I'm just going to flip it over to the back side. And I'm going to grab another magnet, and wherever it lands, that's where it's going to end up. Just like that. Just snap like that. Okay. I'm just going to add that glue in that area, let it snap back into place. And then cover it up with my washi tape. I know y'all have tons of washi tape in your stash, especially if you do journaling. I know you do, or planning. So, at this point, we have our little magnets on now, and we can go ahead and add it to our base, okay? So I'm going to turn this around. It's just easier for me to do it sideways, okay? And at this point, you're going to want to grab a ruler, okay? And you're going to want to grab a pencil. And, oh, there's my ruler. I'm like, where did my ruler go? I'm just going to grab a pencil. I'm going to use a red one just for y'all, so y'all can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to line this up over to the edge, and that way I know my ruler is straight, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up about a ½ inch from this line right here, right? So I have this aligned, have your little fold right there aligned with one of the lines on here. That's just so you can see, because for me, I'm kind of blind now. I'm older, and I just want to make sure that it's going to be lined straight. Okay. And then now at this point, I can go ahead and, still for me, it doesn't seem straight. Don't know why. I'm just going to draw just a smidge of a line. This is so that I know where to start. Okay. And I just did it very lightly. I know you can probably barely see it on there, but it's there. I'm going to peel this backing off. And I'm going to add some more. Okay, so that it's all taped up. If you have ½ inch tape, you can do that. But I usually buy 1/4 inch because for me, I do a lot of cards, and 1/4 inch tape is just more reasonable for me. Okay, I'm going to peel this off. And then now we can go ahead and add our glue. Again, this is just preference. You don't have to do the glue and the tape. Okay. So now at this point, I'm just going to go ahead, and since they're the same distance, I can do that. I'm just going to line it up on here. Again, remember that line so we know it's straight. Oops, got a little glue there. And I'm just going to line it up on that line. Okay, I'm going to press down a little bit lightly this time, right? So we know that this is all straight because it's all lining up in here. The stars are aligned. And then we can fold it back and burnish it in. Don't worry about my little pocket right there. It's not going to die. Okay, so now we have it. Isn't that cute so far? So anyway, I'm going to put this to the side because now we're going to be working on the back page inside here. Or actually the base page is what I call it because it's the back of the album and the back inside. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create a waterfall, okay? Because you don't want to put a waterfall on these pages because this is the back, so obviously you can handle the weight, all right? If you put a waterfall on here, it's going to be like, you know, just bending and acting crazy, okay? So definitely keep your waterfall on this side, and then we'll be right back. Let me get those prepared for you. Okay, so for the base of our waterfall, and this is just to make sure that everything is aligned straight. You don't have to do this, but this is what I do. I use a sheet of paper, and this one's going to be 4 inches by 7.5 inches, and whatever width you decide to make your waterfall. My pages are going to be 7.5 inches. That way I can add a photo and then do some journaling on the side, okay? So that's completely up to you. This is going to be, again, 7.5 by 4 inches, and you're going to score every 1/2 inch up to the 3.5, right? So that makes it simple, right? And what you're going to do is, hopefully this makes sense. I'm going to flip it over on this side. So you're going to skip your first one, and then you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we have 7 to our waterfall, okay? Don't worry about this because this is all going to be covered up. They're not going to see that. So for your actual waterfall sheets, you're going to need 7 of these. And they're going to be 4 3/4 by 7.5. And then you're going to score at a 1/2 inch on the 4 3/4 inch side. And then you can go ahead and fold these. And I'm not going to show you every single one of these, but what I do is I just add my tape to the back of these. And of course I use glue. You don't have to do that. And then you're going to start by adding these on where that 1/2 inch is, just like so. So I'm going to start off with the top and work my way down. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me grab my mat. And then I'll put this whole entire mechanism down on that back page. But of course I want to let you know that you definitely want to cover it with pattern paper first and then add this waterfall onto it, okay? So we're going to add this on here. Let me just trim off this little bit here. And I'm just going to do this to all of these. Oops, that looked a little uneven. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to show you real quickly how I put these on here, and I'm just going to show you one of them, and then, you know, you kind of get the picture after that. Just going to add my glue on here. Okay. And then I'm just going to line it up to that first one. Okay, and so this is, I mean, literally your guide to keeping this straight. Okay, And again, wipe off any excess glue because you're definitely going to have some. And you're just going to burnish that in. And then you're going to continue on to the next one, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you're going to want to start covering the outside and inside of the book, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to do all of them, okay, except for one. So this one, I don't want you, the one in the middle, the back middle, don't put the paper down yet because we're going to need to put some magnets down for your waterfall, okay? So we want those to hide underneath the paper. But all the other ones you can go ahead and do. So you're going to need, let me see, 2, 4, 6. 6 sheets of paper at 8 3/8 by 8 3/8. Isn't that simple? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach these. And oh, and then you're going to need 4. And I've only done 3 so far because this is what I want for my outside. This is going to be 7/8 inches by, again, 8 3/8. Okay, so I'm going to use 3 of those to do my outside, and then I'll figure out the inside colors once I start putting my paper in order. Okay, but I do know that I want this really cute plaid pattern, and I know my camera's going crazy. I don't know what it is about plaid. It just doesn't like it. But excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and start covering all of those, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I decided to do a fun closure. So I have one magnet here at the top, and then I just found a tag die. Doesn't really matter which one you use. I'm sure you have one in your stash. This one's about 2.5 inches wide. And I'm just going to add my tape at the bottom. I made a 1/2 inch score line, right? And I folded on the score line. And then I did a little bit of a measurement here, and I figured about 2 3/8 inches from the start of here. And you know what I'm saying? So just go in 2 3/8 inches. Okay, sorry about that. So I made a little mark at the 2 3/8 inches, and I'm just going to go ahead and add my little tag right there. That's where I'm going to start my tag, is right at that spot. I'm actually going to put it right on there so I know that it works, okay? And then at this point, I can go ahead and use my other magnet to have my little closure here. This way I'm not using a ton of magnets at this point. Okay. And then I'm going to use my washi tape. If I can, oh, there it is. I'm like, if I can find it. There we go. Okay. And then I can add my little piece on top, and I'm just going to make sure again that this is right. And it looks, yep, it looks good. Sorry, I just need to add my glue first again. Now for our Zfold page, you're going to need 6 of these all together, but I'm only doing 2 in pattern, and the other ones I'm going to be doing in solid colored cardstock. That way I can save on my pattern cardstock and I can create more things with it. So you're going to need 6 of them at 6 3/8 by 8 3/8. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and place these on here, and then I'll be right back and we'll start on our pop-up page. Or actually, Hello. So this is up to you whether or not you want to put paper on both sides. I mean, after all, you're going to be putting photos on here, and anytime you keep adding on more paper and photos, it's going to get heavier and heavier, but that's completely up to you. If you do want to do that, you're going to need 14 of these. If you don't, you're just going to need 7, and I'm only using one pattern colored cardstock, and then the rest is going to be solid colored cardstock. I'm probably just going to alternate, you know, I'm probably just going to do pink is what I'm thinking. Pink on top of the blue. So the measurements for this are going to be 7 3/8 by 4 1/8. So that again, 4 1/8 by 7 3/8, and you're going to need 7 to 14 of those, depending on what you're going to do. So I will be back and show you the next step, which is actually we're going to go ahead and work on that twist and pop page, okay? Okay, so we are back, and your little folio should look like this so far. So we have our little pocket page, we have our Zfold page, we also have our Waterfall, and then I know I said we were going to work on the pop-up page, but I realized that, you know, we have a little gap here, right? So, you know, you never know when you have the Waterfall how much, you know, thickness it's going to take. So I thought, okay, we're doing really good. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 graduated pages, okay? So let me give you those measurements right now. So on your first one, you're going to need a sheet of paper that is 7 inches by 8.5, right? And then on the 7-inch side, you're going to score at 6.5, okay? And then we're going to fold on those score lines. But in the meantime, I'm just going to put this aside real quick and show you the second page. Your second page is going to be 8.5 inches wide by 8.5 inches long. So it's 8.5 by 8.5. And then you're going to score on the 1/2 inch, okay? Now, we're also going to be using pattern paper as well as plain colored cardstock. That's a coordinating color. And so we have our pattern paper. You're going to need 2 of these. So I have one in the pattern paper and I have one in pink, all right? So this is going to be 6 3/8 by 8 3/8. And then we're just going to put that aside. And then for the larger page, again, you're going to need 2 sheets. One that's going to be 7 7/8. Well, they're both 7. They're both going to be 7 7/8 by 8 3/8, okay? And so, if I did this correctly, it's going to look something like this. Isn't that cute? So what we're going to do, and I know this kind of seems strange, right? So when I'm opening the album up, we're going to go ahead and put the larger page down first, all right? And it's up to you. If you want to go ahead and pattern, you know, put the paper on, glue that on, and then add it to the page, that's great. I always like to make sure that I do it straight, because in case I have to tear it out and the paper tears, I didn't waste my pattern paper or my other cardstock. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold on the score line, burnish that in, okay? And then again, we're going to turn this way, okay? So basically we're going to have the larger page first, right? And you're just going to butt that up right to this paper right here, all right? So just as long as it is slightly off of the, you know what, as a matter of fact, okay, I lied. We're going to do this one first. And the reason why is because we're going to stack it a little, if that makes any sense. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and butt it up to this pattern paper. In fact, I probably didn't need to put this down, but at the time, I didn't realize that I was going to be adding 2 extra pages. So, you know, I'm okay with this because this is just extra strips of paper anyway. I'm not, you know, losing out on anything, you know, because I always save my scraps. So we're just going to go ahead and add our tape. Burnish that in. I'm just going to trim off that excess tape. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue. And we all know why I do that, for extra wiggle room. Because I don't trust myself. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. So let me bend this back into place. And again, I'm just going to butt that right up to the edge of the pattern paper that I already put down. And as long as I stay away from my score line, I am good. Okay. And then I'm just going to wipe off my excess glue before I flip it over, and then I'm just going to burnish that in. I usually wipe away the excess glue before I even burnish it in and then wipe it off again. Okay, so this looks great, guys. I'm so excited. Okay, let me just dig my finger in there because I see it coming out and I really don't want this to stick at all. So I'm going to clean that up. All right, we're going to do the same with the next page. All right, let me move this out of the way. I'm going to add my tape. Burnish it in. I'm going to reinforce that little fold. Push up any excess tape back up on top of the page. And then again, I'm just going to add my glue. I really need to get some new tips. And what's funny is I ordered some from Art Glitter Glue online. So I know it was their brand because it came in that bag. And they do not fit on any of my tops. I thought that was so strange. Okay, so then again, see how we have this as a 1/2 inch? So we know that that's going to be a little too much because this is only 1 inch, right? So we need to back this up a smidge. Okay. Make sure it's even, and it looks pretty darn even to me. Okay, and now I'm going to press down. So it does overlap a little bit, but you need that because if you don't, you're not going to have enough space. So when you try to close it, it's going to get caught up in that score line and not fold properly. So now we have our cascading 2 pages. So I just love this right now. It's just so stinking cute. You know what? If you are, you know, daring, you could add in another one that would be about 8 1/4 inches by 8 1/4 inches, but that's completely up to you. Again, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to make sure that it does not go over this little colored design paper, right? So it's going to have to be like butt right up to it, the very edge, if that makes any sense. You could also change your 1/2 inch to like maybe 3/8, and then that may help you a little bit too, so that you have plenty of room. Anyway, let's go ahead and get going with our fabulous, really fun pop and twist page. Okay, just love that. But in the meantime, while I'm gonna go ahead and paper these real quick, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so for the pop and twist little page, now you can either attach this to the page that I'm going to attach it to, or you can just have it as like an insert. So you're going to put little photos on here, or they can, however you want to do it. But this is going to be 5 inches wide. by 12 inches long, and then you're going to score right in the middle at 6, and then fold it over, okay? Hi guys. Okay, I wanted to show you something really quick before we continue on. So right here we have our Trifold page, and this is where I want to add my pop and twist, okay? So you have two options, all right? You can add a 1-inch hinge, so it would be 5 inches by 1 inch, and then on the 1-inch side you're going to score it at a 1/2 inch, and then you would attach your little hinge to the back here, right? So in this case, if you're going to do that, you're going to need 4 sheets of pattern cardstock that are going to be 4 7/8 by 5 7/8, okay? So 4 7/8 by 5 7/8. So basically a 1/8 inch shorter than the card, okay? So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add mine on the top. Let me see if I can find one with a good edge. Okay, so for me, I'm just going to glue mine right on top of here. I know I'm kind of losing some space here, but I think I have plenty of space to add photos, so it's completely up to you. At this point, if you wanted to do that, you'd have to, and you wanted it magnetized, you'd have to have added a magnet before you did this. But so I'm just gluing mine straight on top. But what I am going to do is I want to create a little pocket, right, for my tags that I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my tape here and here, okay, and not the top, and definitely not in the center here. And then I'll have a little place to put some of those tags. So I thought that was kind of fun to change it up a little bit, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue these on here, because what you're going to put your mechanism inside. So you definitely want to have your paper patterned before you go ahead and continue on with the tutorial. So let's go ahead and get that done. So again, you're either going to need 3 or 4 at 4 7/8 by 5 7/8. Okay, so we're going to make our mechanism now. So you're going to need a sheet of cardstock at 3 inches by 10 inches. And then we're going to score it on the 3-inch side at 1.5 inches. And then on the 10-inch side at 5 inches. Now, I know most people don't do that, but it really doesn't matter if you do or don't, but it just helps you do the little trick that I've done. So first we're going to fold on our score lines, right? So we're going to get this working, okay? Okay, so now at this point we're going to line it up on our scoreboard. So you're going to have your 6-inch line, and then you have your diagonals. Pay attention to those. And we're just going to line it up so that our little score line lines up, and then our score lines line up on the 6-inch line. So we're going to open it up. Again, we're going to double check, make sure it's there. It looks good to me. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and see where I have my little white diagonal lines. I'm going to make a mark at each one of those, okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should have 4 little marks. Okay. And then if you want to use your ruler to make this easier for you, basically you're just going to follow those little lines. Okay. So I'm going to be sure that when I fold this, yep, it looks like it's right on that little arrow. I mean, not arrow, my little line there. Okay, I'm going to go just a little smidge further. Okay, and then I'm going to burnish that in, okay? Then I'm going to open it back up again, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on this one. Okay, and it really is easier if you kind of use your bone folder to help guide you. All right. Just make sure it's, or a ruler, either one. A ruler is probably much easier, okay? Or a heavy piece of chipboard. And then now, so now I kind of have my form, okay? And so now at this point, I can go ahead and burnish it in. This is honestly the easiest way that I have ever found this to be, okay? So now I'm going to, okay, so now that I folded on my lines, you're going to take this, right? So wherever your mountain high is, you're going to turn it to the mountain high facing down, right? So now at this point, this basically, I don't know how else to describe it. Okay, you're going to push these in, and it's going to look something like this, okay? And if it's a little bit off, what you're going to do is go ahead and force it to go in this position right here, okay? So I'm basically forcing the paper to conform to the way I have it set now, okay? And so now you have your little mechanism, okay? So we're going to grab our card here. And again, I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to make a little mark. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my ruler and in the center here, right, I'm going to make a little mark. Here's my fold line, right, my score line. And I'm going to make a small little mark at 2.5 inches right there on my paper. Don't worry, you're going to be covering that up so they're not going to see this. Okay, so right there at 2.5. All right, don't get rid of your ruler. Leave it around. You're going to go ahead and add your tape or your glue or whatever. And what I like to do is I just like to add the tape on my first side so that I know it's going to, you know, stick, okay? And then I'll just add my glue in the center, okay? All right, here we go. This is such a fun little card. I just love it. Now, I am going to open this up real quick because I forgot to mention I need you to trim the corners. So you're going to do the bottom right, and you're just going to take off a little smidge, okay, right up there to the thing. And then you're going to turn it around and do the same thing at the other side right up at the top, okay? Well, you know what, let me do a little straighter line. Doesn't have to be perfect, okay? But then we're going to put it right back into its place. And this is where my ruler comes in handy because I want to make sure that I have it positioned properly. Let me grab my glue. Always got to have a little bit of wiggle room, right? Okay. Let me move this up a little bit so y'all can see what I'm doing. Okay. So I have my little mechanism, and I'm just going to put it right a little bit on top of that. And to make sure that I don't have it all crazy, I'm just kind of lining it up to my ruler, okay? That way I have it nice and straight. Hope that makes sense. And then we can go ahead and add our glue to this, okay? And then press down, burnish that in. And then voila, we have our little mechanism. Isn't that cute? And you know what? I did put this upside down. Oh my goodness, but I think it's going to be okay. What I'm probably going to do is add my paper to this corner and then line it up at this corner. I think it'll be all right. And then we'll be right back. Okay, it's up to you if you want to use solid colored cardstock or you want to use pattern paper. I'm using pattern. I'm just using some of my leftover pieces that I've cut. And you're going to need it 10 inches by 3 inches, okay? You're going to turn it back over to the 10-inch side. Now, this is the important part that you want to follow along with. So this is the side that I want to show. So I'm going to flip it over first, all right? I'm going to score at 5 inches, all right? You're going to turn it back over, and this way your paper will not crack, hopefully. You're going to flip it back over and score at 7.5 and 2.5, okay? Then at this point, we're going to grab our little mat here, and we're going to fold on our score line on the first side first, right? Okay. So I'm going to fold there, and then these are going to be folded back up onto the paper. All right. And then again. Okay. And then you're going to come and grab your card, right? And because I made my little mess up, but it's fine. You know, either way, I think it's going to work. I'm going to line it up just a little bit differently. So I'm going to add my glue right here at about 1 inch, right underneath my score line. Okay. And then I'm going to align this up. I'm just going to hold it in place for a minute. All right. Burnish it in a little bit. Wipe away any excess glue. Okay, and then I'm going to come back and turn this around. And then on this side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go about 1/2 inch. I'm sorry, 1 inch of glue. And I'm going to do it right under the score line. And then I'm just going to line this up again. Make sure it's really lined up. Okay. And then I'm just going to burnish it in. You're going to have to be kind of gentle with this. And I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. Okay. And then now you have your little mechanism, okay? Is that not stinking cute or what? And now it should close. What I like to do is work with it a little bit, you know, and then you won't have any more issues. But just like that. Isn't that cute? All right, so now I can go ahead and add it to my page. Let me just get off any extra glue that I've somehow got onto here. Okay. And then I'm going to open up my little book here. Let me move this out of the way. And then again, remember we talked about that I was going to add my tape to make a small little pocket. And that's exactly what I'm going to do on the bottom. And then, oops, I'm running low on tape. Whoa. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. And then just continue on. And it is a little bit easier to use tape for this just because of, you know, the glue will sometimes seep in and then it won't be a very big pocket. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Okay, and then I'm just going to line this up, make sure it's straight. I think I'm going to use the rainbow as my guide. I mean, I could have it up a little higher, but I just kind of want to center it, I think. And from judging, that looks about right. So hopefully it is. And then I'm just going to burnish it in underneath. And then how stinking cute is this, guys? I love it. Like I said, sometimes you got to work with it a little bit, you know. But I think it's so cute. Okay, so the only thing we have left to do is cover this pocket, and I'll give you that measurement in a second. Okay, so the pattern paper for your pocket is going to be 8 inches by 3 7/8. So now all we have to do is just decorate this fun little thing and add photos to it. And I just think this is just too stinking cute. And I will be back showing you what I have done.